Hi everybody, it's Marcus Collins and
Rachel Addis
with the MA Properties team, and here we're going to do a seller's masterclass on, guess what, 5 keys to maximize your sales price. And I need to put the right screen up there. How about that? There we go. How's that? So this evening, what are we going to talk about and how's this going to go? So buying and selling is really important. It's really too important to leave to chance, which is why we want every decision to be guided by emotions. We do not want all decisions to be guided by emotions and first impressions alone. And so it's really about understanding the market. What does it take to get the maximum sale price for your home? So this evening, we're going to do 5 keys, 5 topics, and therefore 5 parts of the agenda. Smart decisions, preparation, staging, and marketing. And then we'll finish up with a discussion around teamwork, excellence through teamwork, and describe how the team that we have is really going to be beneficial to get that maximum sale price. So let's start off with a little bit of smart decisions. So it's relatively easy to get information today, much harder to make sense of it. There's a lot going on, and really at the end of the day, you want to take advantage of that. There is a lot happening. So we take the time to explain exactly what's happening with the market. We look at the market in depth, and you'll see in a minute, we'll give you some stats about what's happening in the market in general, to give you a sense of what's happening. So we really do look at the market quite obsessively. It's probably true, I think we probably do. So what are the characteristics of the local market? Well, so a couple of important things to think about is really what's the impact on COVID on the housing market in 2021, and here we are in early March 2022. So every month we do an in-depth look at what's happening in different towns in the area. Go to our blog, go to YouTube, you'll see that you have an in-depth look. We've done 5 towns, I think, so far this year. We'll do a couple more tomorrow evening. So there's a lot of information out there about what's happening, specifically what 2021 brought, and further back to give some context to that. And then, of course, what does 2022 mean in terms of this year's market?
You know, putting it in context, looking back at prior years is really helpful because some of the markets have become so incredibly aggressive. But it's validating for buyers to see that these markets can handle it. Mm-hmm. So the towns where the prices have really got out of control, right? Were towns, in some cases, we didn't think would be able to substantiate homes in that price point, but now we're seeing that they are. Mm-hmm. So it's really building confidence for the sellers and the buyers.
Yep. And actually, I'll show you some of those home prices that Rachel talked about in a moment. So it's, and you'll see that they really are high. So lots of information on a monthly basis on our blog, so take a look. There's a lot of information on our website too. If you go to our website, maproperties.com, and go to the stats tab, you will see that there's lots and lots of statistics, all kinds of things. Inventory levels, absorption rates, how many home sales, average prices. And we do these for about 50 different towns. So no matter which town you're interested in, maybe you're living in today or you're thinking of moving into, about 50 towns in the greater Boston area. So there's lots and lots of information on maproperties.com. Statistics, a lot there. As well as that, every year we do a number of market reviews. This is the Lexington one. We do it for a number of different towns where we take an in-depth look at what's happening in the market, just so we can get a sense of what happened in this case 2021, and then give us a sense of the predictions for 2022, which is clearly what we're interested in. As well as that, we post out, and on our website you'll see a lot of neighborhood sales brochures as well, where we look at the neighborhood sales. And real estate is local, and in many cases it's hyper-local, because the market in one part of a town may be slightly different from another part of the town. And so the neighborhood sales leaflets we put out will actually give you a sense of exactly what's happening in a specific area. So that's important too. It shows you the sales for 2021. So those are out there. If you have want any information, feel free to reach out to us. There's lots of information that we have looking at 2021 and now 2022. So how would we define what's driving the market, if you will? And I think it's about changing housing demands. I mean, there are lots of different reasons people move, but they've changed somewhat because of COVID. Maybe the home no longer meets their needs. Maybe they didn't have an office and now they're working from home 3 days a week, 2 days a week, so they need an office. So what people are looking for in a home is changing. Before, perhaps they were comfortable in a condominium with some shared space, not too much yard. Right now they want some yard, and maybe they need to go further out to get that yard, further out from Boston.
And you know, the relevancy of these seminars, these conversations with potential sellers, is to show that both sides, there's a win-win here. Sellers are revisiting why, you know, where they want to be now. They no longer need the home they've had for so many years. And luckily, there's such a strong buyer group that's coming in that's saying, I want this now. So that's where we're really seeing such activity, right? Because there's people on either side. That's great.
Yep, you'll see that in a minute. The activity is definitely there. So definitely a lot of people changing what they're looking for. Maybe downgrading their requirements on the commute. Maybe they weren't comfortable with 45-minute commute before because they were going in 5 days a week. Now they're okay because they're only going in 2-3 days a week. So there's a lot of changing demands in terms of housing. And that's what's driving the market, driving sellers as well as driving buyers as well. And one further thing that's driving the market is rising prices. As Rachel said, prices are on the rise. You'll see that in a minute. And that's meaning that many sellers are thinking maybe now's a good time to put my home on the market. There's lots of money to be had in the market if I put my house on the market. So now let's kind of move into that. And you'll see that in a minute. Mortgage interest rates are kind of worth looking at. And I thought this was an interesting graph. The blue are the historic numbers and the green are the predictions. Predictions taken with a pinch of salt. Who knows what the crisis we currently have in Europe is going to do to them. But I thought it was interesting to see, even with the predictions they have right now, even if they were good to go up 0.5% or so by the end of the year, they are still very much lower than we've seen historically. So interest rates are at that historic low, and that's kind of key. So let me give you a quick look at some markets. I'm going to look at two things. I'm going to look at home sales and I'm going to look at average prices. And because that will give us a validation, if you will, of some of the comments we made previously. So let's take a look at home sales for a couple of towns. Here's Lexington. Let me show you what's important about Lexington. Home sales declined since 2015. So there's a lot of people staying in their home thinking about selling, but you know what? Price appreciation is quite high. I'm going to stay in my home to take advantage of that price appreciation. Now, along comes 2020 and 2021, and a lot of homes come on the market. So I think it's fair to say in this market, a lot of sellers moving out, taking advantage of those high prices. Remember, the average price in Arlington's in Lexington, about 1.6. So they have some headroom to go and buy in a more affordable town. Look at Arlington, excuse me. I'll get my Lexingtons and Arlington mixed. You see the same here. Relatively static number of sales historically, and then bam, the number of sales rose quite dramatically in 2021 as sellers in their home thinking now's a great time to think about selling, taking advantage of the market. So that's important. But it's not universally the case. Here's Winchester. I picked 3 towns that actually are adjacent to one another here. As you can see in the Winchester market, relatively flat. So we've not seen that increase in the number of sales in the town. Interestingly, we haven't seen a high increase in the average sale price in Winchester either. So they're kind of going hand in hand. So like as I said before, real estate is local, arguably very local. And so here are 3 towns that we just talked about, adjacent to one another. And lo and behold, we've got different characteristics in those 3 towns. Let's take a look at average prices. Here's the Arlington market. The blue is the historical year by year, so blue takes us to 2021. The green is the first 2 months of 2022. Don't pay much attention to that. There are very few home sales in January and February, and so you can 1 or 2 expensive homes or cheap homes, or more affordable homes perhaps, selling kind of raises that average for those month by months quite considerably. But just looking at the blue, you can see that we saw a substantial rise in prices in that 2021 timeframe, going over $1 million. We were about $950 and we ended up at about $1,050,000 as the average sale price in Arlington. So a steep rise in single family average sale prices in Arlington. You might expect that. Arlington's always been a popular town. You can see prices have risen quite considerably since the current downturn. But it's close to Boston, great school system, vibrant town. So you would think, I would expect high prices in Arlington, but it's not strictly the case. If you think of Acton here, much further out, clearly, longer commute. Historically, that's been a little bit of a downside for many people, not everybody, of course. But look what happened to house prices in Acton in the course of 2021. A substantial rise from somewhere around 725 upwards of 875. So that's a big rise. And back to thinking about COVID and the impact, the after effects and the effect on the work environment. If commute isn't as important, why not move out to Acton with the average sale price is only, he says only, 875, and you can buy a lot more for your money out there with more land and so on, larger house. And that's clearly attracting a large number of buyers who don't necessarily need to be close into Boston anymore because they're only going into Boston 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or perhaps even not at all. So that's what you can see there. So lots of different characteristics there in price and in the number of home sales. But just giving you a sense of there is a big shift going on, a lot of it very localized in terms of what's happening. So if you're interested in a specific town, reach out to us, take a look on the website. We can explain exactly what's going on in each of those towns because they are different. Even the 3 home sale ones I showed you with 3 adjacent towns, big difference in number of home sales. So what does that mean, kind of the summary? What's going on? So we saw in 2021, in general, a large number of sellers with changing requirements and some profit taking. So they're moving because they want a bigger home, smaller home, but they're also moving because thinking now is a good time because I can maximize my sale price and therefore, take some profit. And as Rachel mentioned, a lot of buyers in the market too. Arguably more buyers than there are sellers, I think it's fair to say. Right. Homes, we sold a home 3 weeks ago in Waltham, 49 offers on that home. So only one person can be successful, clearly. So there are 48 buyers looking the following weekend for a home. So there are a large number of buyers, and certainly this time of year when there are not that many homes on the market, lots and lots of buyers and not that much inventory. But I think it's fair to say, that's going to continue, that large number of buyers. So we saw a shift in 2019 to 2020 from a softening seller's market. There was talk of a recession in 2019, or housing correction anyway, to a seller's market in 2020. That shifted again from a seller's market to a very strong seller's market with some very positive price appreciation in many, many towns. The big question for me though, and this is kind of it's only 2 months in and we're kind of looking at all of the stats to try and get a sense of what's going on. Those large number of people who sold in 2021, will they be there in 2022? Or are they already sold? I mean, I think that's the big question that I have anyway. Will we see as many sellers as we saw last year, this year? I have an inkling, and it really is that we don't have the information. A little bit anecdotal. There's not much, we haven't got enough data to make an accurate analysis yet, but I think there will be less sellers in 2022 than there were in 2021. Just because so many moved in 2021. The opportunity was there, they moved. They've already moved. And so now that kind of extra people who put their home on the market have already gone. And so I think we'll have less this year than last year.
And I find the big benefit of having this type of conversation and dialogue is that when we talk to sellers, they can get it. They like that fact that their home will sell for more than they may have anticipated that it would sell for. But then the question is, where do they go? And so it comes part and parcel when we talk to sellers that to help them understand that that's a whole process that we will help them with.
Mm-hmm.
Think of Danny when she works with sellers. Quite often it's timing bringing that house on the market once they know where they want to go. And those unknowns that it can be very hard for sellers who are out there who have been living in their home for so long is something that we're here to validate, to say we get it. And we want to help you with that whole overall
timing
thinking.
and buying a sell.
And we speak to that, later on when we talk about it. So it's really to help validate for people. If you're sitting out there thinking, I want to do this, but I'm not sure when,
right.
That's okay.
Yep.
Having the dialogue is part of the process.
No, I think it's when and how.
Yeah.
And there are mechanisms by which we can do this. There are lots of mechanisms by which you can do this too. The devil, of course, is in the detail. Everybody's situation is different. In many seminars, we talk about about the different techniques, but the real key is you need to sit down, okay, understand the finances, understand the town they're in today, understanding where they want to go.
Yep.
Are they moving to a much weaker town? Are they moving out of state? Are they moving to New Hampshire, where it's a much different market than we have here? And factoring all of those factors in, that means we can come up with the right solution for.
And it pays off, because as we're going to point out when we
Yep.
talk about preparation and staging, another big big thing to do here is to educate the sellers that don't rely on the virtual staging. Don't assume that that's enough to get you the best price. There's
Right.
lots of pieces, and that's just one of them as an example that we're here to help you with.
Yep.
And it's providing options, right?
Yep,
So
absolutely.
it's all good.
So there's our kind of summary of 2021 and 2022. There's lots more information. Reach out to us. We live stream monthly in different towns. So if you have a town you're particularly interested in, let us know and we can do that. I had an email yesterday, a phone call from somebody who was interested in the multifamily market in actually Arlington. We put together an analysis for this gentleman. He was thinking of selling where he was, moving and investing in a multifamily in Arlington. Send him a comprehensive analysis on that. So if you have any specific topics, multifamilies in X town or whatever it may be, please reach out to us, and we've got lots and lots of information we can impart just so that you make the right decision, that smart decision.
Right, cool.
Right, so there's a summary. Perennial question, on and on. I was driving around with our team today and we were looking at the new construction that's being built. Inevitably, there is a question, is my home a teardown? It's a question that's asked quite frequently. The answer may surprise you to some extent. The first thing is my home a teardown? The answer is yes, if the land value is worth more than what a home buyer would pay for that home. That's ultimately the question, the answer I should say. If the land value is more than what a home buyer would pay, then yes, it is a teardown. Remember what we mentioned previously, there are a large number of buyers in the market right now. The home we mentioned in Waltham, 49. 2 weeks ago, we sold one in Lexington, much more expensive, well at 1.5 million. There were 13 offers on that home. There are 12 buyers still looking for $1.5 million homes in Lexington today. That's in late February, early March, let alone when more buyers come into the market as the year progresses. That equation where the land value is greater than what a home buyer will pay is quite rare that occurs. But it's important to understand who's actually telling you it's a teardown. Clearly the developers or the builders are telling you it's a teardown. It's in their best interest to say, we'll pay top dollar for your home. But why would they do that if there's no competition? That's kind of the question to ask. So getting just one builder to give you a quote, maybe not the smartest thing to do, because inevitably they're going to kind of bring that price down because there's no competition. But it's also interesting to ask the question if your agent says, maybe your home is a teardown. And the conversation might go something like, I think your home is a teardown. Why do I introduce you to a developer that I kind of know? Why don't you talk to him and see if you can agree on what that price may be? Well, let's kind of understand what's happening behind the scenes there. Is that the agent actually works with that developer. And so what's happening is the agent is saying, I'll forego the commission on your home as it is today because I'm going to get the commission on the new construction home. And in general, a new construction home is about 3 times the price of an existing home. So there's a lot more commission to be made. And so be cautious when your agent says, I think your home may be a teardown. Maybe they don't have your best interests at heart. So be cautious with that one when you hear that message. Start asking some questions if that's the case. Let me give you a quick example of one house where it was a teardown, but was it? And so builders had made an offer on this home, and you can see the before and the after there. We'll talk more about that process in a moment. But you can see the before and the after. The builders had offered $770,000 for this home. We smartened it up somewhat, spent more than we would ordinarily do in terms of $20,000. That's more than we would recommend. Again, we'll have more to say about that in a moment. But we listed it for $839,000. But here's the key. When we brought it on the market, we got 7 offers on that home. It actually sold for $900,000. So clearly, what a home buyer would pay, even after spending a little bit of money smartening it up, was considerably more than what a developer would pay. So that's an example where you might look at the picture there and go, I think that home probably is a teardown. Actually, the reality is it wasn't. It didn't make financial sense to sell directly to a builder. So that's kind of a quick example of that. Based on what I said previously about the confusion in the market about whether my home is or is not a teardown, will a developer pay more or less than a home buyer? We came up with the buyer or builder program. And the idea behind this is that we give you 2 bits of information. We give you what a home buyer would pay, a CMA if you will, to say this is what we think your home will sell for, maybe with a little smartening up. This is the price that a home buyer would pay in this very strong market.
Based on what's already sold.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. I'll talk a little bit more about the CMA in a moment. Yes. Based on what comparable homes have sold for, we think your home will sell for X. And then we'll give you what a developer will pay. We'll give you those 2 numbers, and then you can now make an educated decision in terms of which way you should go. You know, if the difference is only a few $1,000s, perhaps it does make sense to sell to a developer because it's a lot less hassle, if you will. On the other hand, and in most cases, the difference is considerable. It's in tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in favor of what a home buyer would pay. So in general, a home buyer will pay an awful lot more. But it's important that you get those 2 bits of information so that your situation, your home, we can determine exactly whether it will sell for more with a developer or it will sell for more with a home buyer. Most times it's actually a home buyer, say especially in this very, very strong market,
right,
will pay a lot more for it. So that's what the buyer or builder program is all about. So wanted to kind of touch on that perennial question of what is my home a teardown? So that's kind of that section. So what does selling in 2022 look like? So just to kind of characterize it a little bit, there are fewer open houses than there were previously. If you remember previously, usually on Saturday and Sunday for 2 hours or more of a social thing to some extent. I mean, there were a lot of people going through those open houses because they were just curious. Less so, serious buyer behavior is really to view the home virtually on Thursday or Friday, take a close look at the home, look at all the aspects of it, the video, the photographs, the 3D tour, if they exist, and then make a private showing so that they're in the home on their own. Because there are no overlapping buyer groups in general, and so you get your own time in that home, and that's when it's easy. It's much easier. You can get a sense of the home as opposed to negotiating people. You know, we've had open houses in the past where we'd have 50, 60, 70 people through a 2-hour open house.
Right.
And there was a lot of people milling around that home. You certainly found out where the choke points were anyway, that's for sure. But because there were just so many people going around the home. And that's changed.
Well, and it's been great because I think we're unique in that way that when sellers bring their home on the market with us, we do encourage them to go away to really make it easy for these private showings to be scheduled. It is so frustrating when you try to get into a home and it's not as easy to book. So,
yep,
you know,
absolutely.
Something that sellers do that really pays off. You know?
Yeah, and because there are, I mean, back to the homes I just described, it's not unusual for us to have 50 or more. In fact, the house in Waltham had 159 private showings over the weekend.
I think I had 59 showings at a house
I
recently had in
59.
Lexington.
So, I mean, they're maybe not quite back to back, 150 they are, by the way, but even with 60 showings, they're almost back to back. And you really want to allow those people to go through the home because the more people who view your home, and if they're making a private showing, they're serious.
Right.
They're not out there just kind of having a look to see. They're not the neighbors, if you will. There are actually serious buyers who are interested in that home. So that's 60 serious buyers. You don't want to have any impediment to those buyers looking through the home. That's key, right? You want everybody who's interested in your home to see your home, and that's why the sellers going away for the weekend is a great idea.
And I think we should just mention that whenever appointments are made, they're always accompanied by an agent. You know how we've had instances where
absolutely
at other places where people just showed up, they can't just get in.
Right, that's just because the only way to make a private showing is through the multiple listing services through an agent.
Yeah.
So that's a key one too. Yep. So feature sheets, a little bit like menus in restaurants, really. They're all started going virtual. We do print a few. What we found, though, is that people would prefer to use their QR code and look at it digitally. All of the marketing, too, is digital. Video, 3D tour, photographs, floor plans, websites. all of that being in place, and all of that being in place the minute the home goes on the market is key. So there's no photos coming soon. They're all there because as soon as the home goes live on the multiple listing service, and then straight away on Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, or all of those hundreds of different real estate portals, you need to have everything there. Everything has to be there. In terms of closing, most of it's virtual now. Certainly less people at the closing table than there used to be, so that kind of moves quite quickly too. Changing a little bit, as mask mandates disappear. This is the last time, for example, we're going to do a live stream. We're doing it in person next month, which is great. Looking forward to that. It's been 2 years since we did it. In person.
Serving pizza?
Serving pizza, absolutely, yes. I missed pizza. 2 years without pizza. I'm not sure I missed the pizza, but anyway. So we're going to go back in person, which is we're looking forward to it as well. Live streams all very well, but it's much nicer to be interacting with people and getting their questions and being able to have a kind of interactive session. Much better. So that's what selling in 2022 is like. All of the kinks have been worked out clearly, and we are getting back to normal. It's just some things just aren't back to normal. Like, for example, the way buyers are looking at homes. They're looking at it all virtually and then deciding whether to do that kind of private showing. There are some changes which COVID introduced, and they've continued moving forward too.
I know you touch on this later, but I think the message too for sellers is they're so eager, I find, sellers to want to know if there's any interest in the home. And so when we're tracking the number of visits, the number of private showings, and we're tracking the number of hits that are made to their website that has their address, it's really powerful because then we can convey to the sellers, yes, your house is getting a lot of activity. It is very likely that you're going to get an offer. And I know one of the other things I'm sure we'll hit home tonight is that it's so frustrating when sellers take offers before the deadline. Mm-hmm. And so it's something we really talk very honestly with our sellers, that you want to get the highest price, you need to expose it, as you're going to also talk about, and really allow the buyers in and stick to that consistency of when your offer deadline is. Yep. So it's all of this stuff that really pays off for you, the seller, to know that, hey, it's really going to pay off.
Yep, absolutely. All that work is actually going to get you the maximum price. You're right. Back to that. There's no hurry to accept offers. They're going to come in anyway. I mean, why hurry to do it?
Well,
Give
why.
a deadline.
But you know why? An agent comes along and presents an offer, and you have to present it to the seller. And of course, if it's this incredible offer, the seller can't, we don't want to worry that the seller's going to feel like they missed out if they don't take it. But we've already spoken to the sellers. We've already educated them on how the process works. Right. And it's paid off. And I think that's a really important take-home message for our sellers. Set
that deadline and then stick to that deadline. That's the way to get the maximum price. And that's what.
And it's not happening all the time. So when sellers hear that other people do it, maybe I should do it too. It's not the
way we do it.
No, it's not.
So that's what selling in 22 looks like. What about today's buyers though? What are today's buyers? What are they looking for? No surprise they're looking for move-in ready, but let's kind of add a little bit of flavor to that kind of comment. First of all, if you look at the demographics of the USA, this is the demographics from the last census, just 2020, I guess it was, came out late last year. If different bars are the number of people in different age brackets, male and female, blue is the blue and the red. Important, there's two kind of bumps in that graph. The top one is the baby boomers. Now, the baby boomers are beginning to think about retirement. And with retirement comes the possibility of downsizing. They no longer need the school system. Their children are no longer in the school system. And so they're beginning to think about downsizing. And therefore, they're going to move. They're going to move from the home they're currently in into their new home. So that's driving the market. The lower group are the millennials, the first-time home buyers.
God bless you.
Oh, sorry about that.
They've come out in force.
Right, and they are out in force, right? And there's a lot of them. And so even without COVID, if COVID were to no longer be here, this is what's driving the market. It is that the baby boomers are thinking of retirement, freeing up some housing stock, and then the millennials, first-time home buyers, are coming into the market. About half of first-time home buyers are first-time home buyers. So there's a large number of them. And this is what's driving the market. Now, what's layering on top of this, of course, is the changes in requirements that buyers and sellers have, driven by COVID. And so we've got this underlying demographic shift that's driving the market and was driving it in 2017, 18, 19. 2020 came along and COVID kicked in, and that added to this. This still exists, this kind of demographic shift. It's not gone anywhere.
Right.
We've just got some additional changes in terms of buyers and sellers, in terms of what they're looking for, and that's driving the buyers and the buyers.
COVID actually helped in that way. It I think really gave people the impetus to want to buy a house. Right. Now's the time. Especially because they could move further away from their job site and stuff. Right. So it was an impetus. It was.
Yep, very much so. Yeah, no question about that. But as I showed before, house prices are rising, and they're rising quite rapidly. What that inevitably means is that buyers, when they've bought, they really don't have any money left over for any repairs and updates and so on. So they just essentially don't have any money left over. To some extent, they don't know who to call as well. But thinking about, average prices pushing, well over $1 million in Arlington, for example, there's no money left over. There is just no money left over. And therefore, what buyers are really looking for, and this comes back to now maximizing sale price, is they're looking for a home that is fresh and move-in ready. A home that is kind of there. They can roll the suitcases in and they're good to go. If it's not that they're looking for, then guess what? They're looking for a home they can invest in. But, and here's the trick, here's the key. If it's a home they can invest in, they're looking to get that at a discount. So the whole way that you get the maximum sale price is by creating that product, that move-in ready product, that move-in ready home. If you don't do that, it's highly likely that the buyers will look at it and think, yes, I'm interested. Some will, some want only move-in ready. Some will look at it, yes, I'm interested in, but there's so much work to do, I need to keep some money back to pay for that extra work, and therefore I'm looking to get a discount on that home. So those are the two approaches. And if we're talking to buyers, putting the buyer hat on now, what we would say is when you go into a home and it looks like it needs some work, that's potentially an opportunity because it's likely to have less competition. It's likely to sell much cheaper than the move-in ready home. It's going to be an easier buy, it's going to be a cheaper buy, and then you've got some extra money left over to put that extra money into the home. And guess what? When you come to sell it, having done all that work, you're going to get the benefit. So
it's interesting because some clients we worked with recently, I think their attitude was to some extent initially not to do some of the work because there's such low inventory in the market that the buyers out there will pay top dollar anyway for my home. And we luckily got their thinking to come around to no, you still need to do the stuff to freshen it up. People won't get your home at a discount because they'll want the house and there's not many homes on the market, so they'll pay top dollar,
right,
knowing that there's still things to do. But you got to do the basics.
That's true.
Right?
It's about, yes, your home will sell. That's for sure.
Right.
But will it sell for top dollar?
No.
And then that's the key. I
Right.
think you're right. I don't want to do any work because my home will sell.
Because I can,
Yes,
I know I
that's
can
right.
sell it. It's a
I can
seller's
always sell
market.
it. But will you get top dollar? And that's the key. And that's where this is the rationale behind everything we're going to talk about moving forward here. It's about creating that move-in ready product, that home that is move-in ready. That's what it is.
They still see the things that they need to do, and they may think they should be able to get it for a discount, but they've come around quickly. They know they can't when there's competition.
Right.
So now it's just I want the house.
Yep. They change, right? So that's kind of smart decisions. So let's think a little bit about, back to what we need to do now to maximize that sale price is really to give them that move-in ready product and think a little bit about what is involved in preparation. And let me talk a little about what you said in terms of it will sell, but...
Because it speaks to the next chart.
It does, very much so.
It flows right into it, so go for it. Yeah.
So this graph, a little hard to see, but essentially what it shows you is how many homes sold at what sell price to list price ratio. If you listen to our market overviews, we talk a lot about this. It's the ratio of the sale price to the list price. So imagine a home comes on the market for $1 million and sells for $1 million. That's 100% sell price to list price ratio. So in normal markets, It's about 50-50, 55-45. It's kind of, if I looked at this data, I've showed you this data for 2019, it would have been around about 50-50. This is market data actually for Lexington, as it turns out. But that's about 50-50. And it was, in general, about that number. A little bit higher in the very popular towns. For example, Arlington was just 60-40, but it didn't differ much from that. So here we are in a very, very strong seller's market. But look what happens here. Yes, some homes sell for over the asking price for exactly the reasons we'll talk about next. But look at these homes here. That's a considerable number of homes that sold for less than the asking price. And why is that the case when you're in such a strong market? And it really comes down to creating that product. Buyers walked into the home and went, there's a lot of work to do here. I don't want to do it. I haven't got the money. I'm too busy. There's a lot going on. For a whole raft of different reasons, they immediately kind of dismissed it on that first weekend. And then as the home sat on the market, so they came in with a lower offers.
And not to be a little cynical, but I think also what happens is sellers assume that because a similar home may have sold for a price that is what they want, they start there. And we educate them that you can't start where you want to end up.
That's true.
So if you consider, right, the homes that didn't sell at asking, if they had priced themselves differently, perhaps there would have been a different outcome.
No, that's true. You can always sell a house.
Right.
You just have to put the price at the right place.
So
of course.
Yeah.
But this idea that all homes in a town sell for over the asking price,
it's wrong.
Just not true. It just isn't true. And as we get back to a more normalized market, as we kind of move away, as we inevitably will, from that very strong seller's market, this ratio is going to reset itself to about 50-50. And the question is, how do you get in the right 50%? That is the 50% that get over the asking price. And the trick here is to create that move-in ready product, have it prepared, ready to go, marketed well, and that's, gets that buyer's attention. Because the longer you sit on the market, the lower the price you get.
Say that again, please. So we really need to hear that.
The longer you sit on the market, the lower the price you get. So what this graph shows is that magic ratio again, that sale price list price ratio, down this here. There's 100%. And then these are just home sales. This is about 3 to 4 years worth of data I kind of amalgamated here. But look at this over the asking price. That happens in the first weekend, give or take. Perhaps, this is, I think, the under agreement date. So within the first 5-6 days, if you haven't got an offer in those first 5-6 days, guess what? You're on a downward trend. It's going to go down. These outliers here are usually new construction, where they've kind of been on the market for a while, and when they're finally finished, then buyers can visualize them. But here's the key. That piece of the graph there, you really do need to sell your home quickly to get top dollar for the home. Staying on the market inevitably means house prices decline. The final house price declines.
I was going to add something, but it's okay.
So, why don't you take us through, the options for preparation here?
Sure. What I was just going to comment on is
Sure.
that perhaps
I knew you wanted to say something.
Perhaps something that can go through a seller's mind
Right.
is maybe I'm not really ready to sell. And yet, if it's the right time to sell and I put my house on the market, do I have to move right away? And one of the things we talk to sellers about is you can put in requests. When you put your house on the market, if you're putting it on in the springtime, but you don't want to move out until June, you can put in seller requests along closing. Because given a seller's market right now, buyers want to do whatever it takes to make an offer that's going to be easy for the seller to accept. So these are things that perhaps are questions sellers have, and they're not sure who to ask. So again, please know if you have questions, you should ask us, because we're here to guide you, right?
Yeah, and it's back to that timing of buy and sell. How do I navigate the situation I'm in? Well, everybody's situation is different. That's one technique. There are others as well. So really reaching out to us and saying, hey, here's my situation, because it's unique, and to some extent it is unique.
Right. In fact, the buyer who I worked with recently was successful because one of the requests the seller had is, yes, they want an accepted offer as soon as possible, so they have the funds to go look for their next house, but they want to stay in their current house till the school year ends. Yep. And it turns out my buyer's in a position where he's renting. So he can stay where he is. So again, there's so many different options, right? It's about having that dialogue. It's having that communication.
And the devil's in the detail to some extent.
Yeah. Okay, so several options that you have. One is you can do nothing, and you can let the buyers or the developers compete for your home. You can do some minor cleanup and cosmetic improvements, including things like decluttering, doing some painting, removing wallpaper, and that will give the buyers the feeling that they're really moving into a home that's move-in ready. Less work for them, they can quickly get settled, and it's a really nice feeling. It works well, especially because paint is the seller's best friend.
Right.
Or you can do updates, spend your money wisely. It may not need to redo a whole kitchen. Maybe it's just bringing in a new appliance so that all the appliances match. It could be changing out fixtures so that you give the look of a much more updated home. But again, those don't have to be costly things. The point is to really look at the types of renovations or improvements that you're going to make sure that they fit within a budget that's going to work, that you're going to get your money back.
Yeah,
and also, it depends on the time frame. How much time do you have before you want to get out, and also to get your home on the market at a time that's going to get the top dollar.
Right, and I think that the whole trick here is decide on what projects are worth doing that don't just get you your money back. Why would you do those projects? But give you a very, very strong positive return on that investment. We want to spend 5,000 to make 25,000 or 50,000. That's the kind of ratio we're talking about. And back to that, do I do renovations? Do I upgrade the kitchen just before I move out? Yeah. No, it really doesn't make sense. What makes sense, of course, is to upgrade the kitchen 3 years or 5 years before you're going to move out so that you get the benefit of it. Yeah. It really doesn't make sense to spend all of that money for the buyer. The trick here is to spend the right amount of money so that you get a really positive ROI.
And we're fortunate on our team that we work as both a buyer's agent and a listing agent. So when we're talking to a buyer, we help them understand when they see some things they want to do to a home that it's not going to cost a huge amount of money. We try to ground them. Well, likewise, when we're speaking with sellers and there's some updates we'd like them to consider doing, we have the resources. We can bring in the painter, we can bring in the handyman to bring them these opportunities at a very good cost, or the least amount of money to the seller. But again, there's so many things that must be going through a seller's mind right now because they see how hot the market is. They think they maybe can rest on their laurels and bring their house on the market as is, and it will sell. But we also have examples to show how much more you're going to get. And I think really that's a big take-home message that we're trying to say.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
Go for it?
No, go for it.
So when it comes to preparation, we really want to reinforce that no one answer fits every seller. You don't want to do major renovations unless, as Marcus was just saying, you're going to be in the home for a while and you can enjoy those and appreciate those renovations yourself. There's a perception that you need to put in a new roof or you need to update windows or things that you really don't have to do, because at the end of the day, when the buyer's walking in the home, they're walking through there envisioning if their furniture will fit, if the location works for them, if the price point is right. So we really want to, educate you on the big ticket items that are going to give you the biggest return, the small items or whatever it is that's going to give you your biggest return. So,
the high ROI.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's paint.
Yeah.
That is the big one. And we'll give you some examples. I mean, this is overall. We'll show you some before and afters in a minute. You'll see the big difference. And to a large extent, I was out with the team today. We were looking at some houses and what we have done and what we might do to them. And really, it came down to, in many cases, just some relatively minor renovations in terms of adding paint to it. So.
Cool. So it's about advising and creating that priority list that's going to pay off.
Right. That's the key. Yeah. And projects that you don't want to do. That's for sure.
And we got some great pictures to show you in a minute.
We do indeed, yeah.
I don't know if we should touch on this very quickly, but the types of preparation we'll encourage you to do can range from, like I just said, providing you with contractor resources, helping you get quotes, coordinating the contractors, even overseeing the project.
Yep.
We have a great team. We have an assistant admin, or I don't know what Susan's exact title is, but she's the project manager these days and really is so instrumental in helping sellers streamline everything and getting it done. So.
Very much so. So you decide what help you need. We have the resources. If you just want us to provide you with some contractor names and you're going to organize it and do the work, be my guest. Go for it. But most sellers, I think it's fair to say, want more than that. And that's where Susan, who's our project manager, our listing coordinator, comes in, really to coordinate those contractors. First of all, of course, give you advice on what to do, what colors and so on. The agents love doing that too. Nothing more than they're like going out and kind of explaining what they can do, what colors to do. And then Susan comes in and really coordinates those contractors and oversees the projects. And I think most sellers want that. And that's a service that we provide. It makes sense to do that. And it takes the load off you. We have this kind of phrase, relax, we've got this.
Love
and I
it.
think that's where
Yeah.
it comes from.
It works out really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, whatever assistance you would like, what one client,
I know what you're going to say.
yeah, one client decided the right word for this was an interested observer.
Yeah.
He basically sat back and watched, which is great. That was pretty good. So,
And we've had the instances where sellers have done these upgrades or these smartening ups, and then they're not sure they want to leave.
yeah, that's true. That's for sure. Yeah, when we finished, it's like, do I really want to move this house? Yes, you do. You need a bigger house or a smaller house.
Right.
You do want to leave. So, befores and afters, we love doing these.
Sure. So we're just going to run through some photos, and we'll show you, when you look with a critical eye, how you can transform a room. So if you
Right.
look at this room that, clearly it could be just overwhelming because of the clutter and the wallpaper, and you can't really see the wood floors. You really can't see what this room has to offer. When you remove the wallpaper and you declutter the room, and you paint a color that's very soft and calming, look how beautiful that room looks.
Yep.
And it's the same room, and looks like new construction too.
It does. If you look, the light fixture hasn't been changed. It's exactly the same. It just really is removing the wallpaper, refinishing the hardwoods. They were there already. And often, if hardwoods have had carpets on them for, it's never 5 years, it's usually 30 years. The hardwoods underneath are in great condition because they've been protected by the carpet. There wasn't, in this case, there wasn't another room. In this case, there was carpet, but we took that up and the hardwoods are in great condition. But you can see huge difference between them. Here's another one that's huge difference. This was a rental, by the way.
Look
just
at
to give you a
the
sense.
paint color of the walls. Look at the carpet. It's really sad shape. But,
Yeah,
look
there we go.
how
Look at
beautiful
that.
the room looks. And families, I have to say, buyers really like having a room on the third floor. This is up on the third floor,
Yep.
I think. Yeah. I mean, it looks like a great room. In fact, is that luxury vinyl tile, the LTV, I think?
It's that or vinyl. I
Yeah.
think it might have been vinyl. Back to that, the town it was in. How much does it make sense to spend? Vinyl was a little cheaper than LVTs, and so I think in this case we went with vinyl. It's a which again back to that. What makes sense given the price of the home, what we can sell it for? It's kind of a judgment call as to how much money you spend on.
And perhaps a good reality check, because it's scary to say this, but when you've done the work, when a buyer is competing for a home, we're not just talking about they're going to go 10K over when they see a room like
Right.
this. We're talking about big money.
Yep.
Because nowadays, the way people are bidding for homes in these towns, they see a room on the left-hand side with the pink walls and the carpet, they're not so sure. They see a room in a house that looks like that. Okay, do I have to go 50 over, 60 over? I mean, it's part and parcel of the bigger picture.
Yep.
But we really are seeing incredible leaps when people know they have to compete.
Yep,
And that speaks
absolutely.
volumes because it's money in the pocket for the seller.
Absolutely. And that's why do the work, because if you sell the house on the left here, the buyers are going to look for a discount. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to paint it and pull the carpet up. They're going to make it the house, the room on the right, and they're going to get the benefit. So we really want the sellers to get the benefit. So if we were having this conversation with buyers, we would say you should be looking for the house with those pink walls, because all you need to do is paint it. Move in 2 weeks later and get it painted. So easy enough to do.
Okay, a couple more photos. Take a look at the kitchen on the left. That was a great story because you can tell the kitchen has great potential because of how big it is, right?
Yep.
But it's dated. And by going in and changing out the appliances, painting the cabinets, I believe, changing the hardware on the cabinets, right?
Yep. Some new granite on there. This was an expensive house, close to the center of town, so very desirable area. And that's why it made sense to spend that money on it, yes. That was kind of the key with that one. Minimum cost, maximum impact. That's what it's all about.
That was a great example.
Yeah.
In this case, this kitchen is very, very presentable the way it is. Unfortunately, just the whole product, I believe, the whole marketing strategy did not pay off because this home sat on the market for 103 days with some other agent. Really a shame because, again, it looks very nice, but revisiting the whole home, the sellers recognized they needed to change their approach. So they started with the kitchen. They painted the kitchen cabinets, and look at the difference. The lights are the same, right? The angle of the photo is different, which we will often talk about as well. But the kitchen really looks like a brand new kitchen. The sellers were so pleased, as I remember this story, they were so pleased with how the paint job turned out in the kitchen that they even took the painting to another room.
I think we got a picture of that one in the middle,
cool.
right? Yeah,
so they updated another room as well.
Right.
But after doing that and listening to our strategy and realizing it really would pay off, they had competing offers, and I believe, does the next slide tell us how much over
No, I
asking?
don't think it does, but
okay.
competing
but
offers.
It was a great
yeah.
story.
Yeah, and you see, look at the difference there. It's just appliances and painting the cabinets. That's really the only difference there. But it just made it that kind of. It looks like new construction, fresh and clean, and bang. That's what did it.
Okay, another, what I think you're hitting on too, Marcus, is we know when we talk to sellers that if you are going to make some improvements, the rooms to do it in are the kitchen and the bathrooms.
Yep.
That's really where you're guaranteed to get payback, right?
Yep.
So a lot of the rooms that we show are kitchens that are dated, and we all have, perhaps some dated areas in our home, but if your kitchen is one, don't rule out that it doesn't have potential to turn around.
Yep.
So this was decluttered. I believe the cabinets got painted. We did not change out the appliances. This was a great story because this was a home that luckily the sellers priced it really well. They did the smartening up because it was located on a hill.
Yep.
And it was with a driveway that was so tough and challenging that there was a fear that perhaps the buyers wouldn't even come in.
Yep.
But the way it was staged, the way it was cleaned up, and the way it was priced, when buyers came through that door, they were so wowed. And I do remember this one. It was a great story because there were competing offers, and great location, but a terrible driveway and a terrible.
The driveway was a bit challenging, but all of that disappeared, of course, when they saw the home fresh and clean. It's like, okay, I can live.
It's like a treehouse.
I'm okay with the driveway because I'm moving into a home which is move-in ready.
It was a great example.
The other the left-hand picture, because a different story, right? That's for sure. Here's another example of a kitchen.
Same thing.
Guess what? That's what it looks like. Changed out the tiling, the flooring. I think it's just tiling there. Appliances are the same. Painting the cabinets. That's what really makes the difference.
The hardware. I mean, something as simple as look at the handles on the cabinets really makes a difference as well.
All of it kind of it kind of telegraphs fresh and what it telegraphs really is I don't need to do anything the day I move in.
Yeah.
That's what it says. Maybe I'll upgrade the kitchen in 3 years' time. Maybe they won't get around to it, but I don't need to do it today when I don't have the resources to do it anyway.
They're putting all their resources into winning the bid,
buying the house.
winning the home,
Exactly.
getting their offer accepted.
Exactly.
Now we turn to bathrooms. Some great little secrets that people may or may not realize. You can paint over ceramic tiles, so the days of the pink and the light blue and the green tiles can be made to magically disappear and become white. So you get rid of the wallpaper, you paint the tiles. In some cases, you can even deglaze or whatever it's called.
Reglaze.
Reglaze the showers and the tubs. And you take a bathroom that's dated to being a bathroom that's fresh and clean looking. Mm-hmm. And it works. People very happy with that for a while. Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't even change out the floor tile.
Yeah, no.
So,
Same with this one.
Take a look at the next picture. You can see that the tile was painted. We can't tell what vanity, and this is also key. We point
Same
out
vanity, just painted.
Well, you can't see it in the picture on the left, and all I was going to say is that again, just to educate sellers that when pictures are taken of their home, and the agent strategically takes it without showing certain features, buyers are very clever. So don't think as a seller that you're getting the best marketing job, because honestly, it's a turnoff when people look at photos of a house and they don't see all the bathrooms or they don't see all the bedrooms.
Yep. It's usually a dead giveaway.
It's a dead giveaway.
Yep. Same with the first photograph of the home. If the first photograph of the home is inside, it means it's got poor curb appeal.
Yeah.
Almost inevitably. Almost inevitably.
And we talk about marketing a lot because we believe in it. It's nothing worse than a buyer going to see a home that looks great in the photos and they drive up and they go through the home and they're so disappointed.
Yep. That's right. That's the death knell. They walk in the door and that's it. It's like first impressions. Very difficult to get rid of those first impressions. Everything you just can't get them back. If they walk in and they fall in love with as they walk in, then they're looking at things to try and everything's a positive.
Yeah.
Once they go in and they let down, everything they look at is a bit of a negative. Very difficult to get them back. So that's for sure. Another bathroom. Yeah. Guess what? Same idea. In this case, because we didn't change out the faucets or the sinks, they're the same. But you can see it looks much nicer. So really, that is just some paint. At the end of the day, that is just paint. Here's that bathroom you were talking about.
Right. So the kitchen that we just showed a few slides back, where the sellers decided to paint the kitchen because the house was not selling. They went a step further and they even painted the bathroom. So look what a difference.
Yep. They liked it so much they decided to paint the bathroom too.
Really
We didn't recommend they did this.
Yeah.
They did this of their own volition. So we really like the look of the kitchen. Why don't we do the bathroom too? And so there we go. They did the master bathroom as well.
And they got competing offers.
There we go.
And competing offers is code for way over asking.
That's true. In this market, that's true. Yep, that's the key. Not just the inside though. Of course, the outside can have the same treatment.
Yeah. So this was a home that was a FSBO for sale by the owner. It was on the market for more than a year. It was sold. A seller tried to sell it on his own, couldn't sell it. Then he worked with an agent for over a year, and the house still didn't sell. Luckily, did some cosmetic upgrading to the house, and when the house came back on the market with some help from us, happy to say that he received competing offers and it sold for over asking. Yep. And in that case, didn't even change the blue.
Right.
Just changed the shutters and the doors.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Took off those straggly trees either side of the front door, which kind of give you that the impression people get, of course, when they look at and they see those trees, which in the end we took out, is that it's kind of not being well kept. It's kind of telegraphing that the house isn't very nice. It hasn't been well kept. Whereas now, of course, when you look at this picture here, as Rachel said, all it was the trim that was painted essentially in the garage doors. That was it.
And it's interesting to me because when we work with sellers, one of the things we'll point out is we're looking at your home from the perspective of a buyer. So if you look at the house on the left with all the trees, a seller will very commonly say, but I never use the front door. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I go through the garage.
Right.
So then we're there to sensitize them to, but wait, when people are going to be coming to see your house and you'll be walking up to the front door, we want them to have a different experience, right? Then when we're talking to a buyer making an offer on a home and they say, well, I only want to pay X, we say, but you have to think about it from the perspective of the seller. The seller wants the most money for their home. If there's competing offers, you have to make your offer look as good as possible, right?
Yep.
So it's really, taking both sides depending on the perspective of what role you have.
That's true.
So this house really looked great.
Yep. Here's another one.
Yeah.
Challenge with those trees, one, as we'll show in a minute, it hides the second entrance. But what it also did is it minimized the amount of light into the house.
What a difference.
Because here's what the house looked like afterwards. Those front rooms with those trees outside, you inevitably have to have the lights on because it's just dark.
It's just beautiful. It's pretty on the left, but it sort of outgrew the value of those trees.
Right,
so.
Yes. They were great. When the beginning of those trees were great, but not at the end of it. And that who knew there was a second entrance?
I think you've pointed out in the past when you look at the picture on the right that also by putting the newer planters, it gives the impression of sort of new construction, right?
Yep.
So.
That's what they have. Those new trees are. That's what new construction has. So it kind of telegraphs that. So preparation is key. Both inside and outside. But the key is to put the right preparation. In this case, it literally was some relatively minor landscaping, pulling some of those old straggly trees out. Makes a huge difference. So we're not looking at a huge expense. We're not looking at replacing the kitchen. None of the pictures we showed replaced the kitchen. Doesn't make sense because we did this to sell. If you were going to stay there for 5 years, maybe it does make sense to replace the kitchen, but not to do it just to sell. It really isn't cost effective to do that. Everything we've shown you in that preparation stage was very much geared towards creating a product that today's buyers want, but in a very cost effective way. And that's hugely important to understand that. We're not looking to spend lots and lots of money here. It just doesn't make sense to get those very, very high ROIs that we talked about.
It's about getting you the most amount of money.
Yep, absolutely. So. Staging.
Cool. So something else that we take very seriously in helping our sellers with is properly staging the home, because we know that the goal is to wow the buyers when they walk in the door, help them have that feeling right away that the home is a home where they can see their furniture and their belongings.
Right. Yep. So they can visualize that home, give you that visceral feel, as the agents sometimes say.
Because unfortunately, we don't always, myself included, for sure myself included, I can't always envision if a certain size bed's going to fit in a room.
Right.
If a certain size piece of furniture. Yep. We love this because part of our rebranding is really helping people understand that it's a whole centralized approach to helping you, the client, be successful. So we have this truck that hopefully perhaps you've seen around town. It's MA Properties, smart moves made here, where we're busy helping our clients get their home ready through proper staging and
back to that kind of teamwork, right? This is our team doing this. So we control both the quality and the timing of this, as we'll talk a little bit more when we get to the teamwork piece. It's kind of key that we control all of that.
Yeah.
I don't want other people to be in control of that. We control that whole thing with a professional staging team.
Yeah.
We have a staging coordinator and stagers, interior designers on staff who do all of this work, and that's important that we control that. And staging makes a huge difference.
Oh my God.
A huge difference. I mean, some stats here
Yeah.
show that it really does pay off.
Go for it. Read the first one, I'll read the second and the third.
83% of agents said staging helped buyers visualize the property, just like you were saying, Rachel. When they walk into a room, where do I put my sofa? Where's the TV? Where's the bed? Will my bed fit? All of those questions disappear or are answered when they walk in, and it's like, okay, now I can see the home. That's key.
25% of buyers agents said that the potential buyers increased their offer between 1% and 5% on a staged home, for sure. They can see how cool a room's going to look and how cool a house is going to look.
Yeah, and just do the maths on the town you're in. Go to our stats page. Look at the town you're living in. Look at the average sale price and multiply by 5%, and see how much money that is. That's a considerable amount of money.
85% of homes surveyed were sold for 6 to 25% more than homes that were not staged. And our goal with any of our clients, buyers and sellers, is to educate you. And so I think that perhaps there's an assumption that, the virtual staging, like I said before, is good enough, or who's going to pay for the staging. That's not even on the table with us. We are here to help present your home in the best possible light so that you, the seller, have the most positive experience of having your home go on the market.
Yep.
And so I couldn't even imagine us not providing that to people, right?
No, it would be hard, yes. I mean, I can't either. Yeah. Now we do, and we do it for everybody, be it a vacant home or whatever it may be. And we've had clients who come to us and said, I need to move like now. I need to go in the next 2 weeks. How do I sell my home in 2 weeks? We don't need to bother. Just move, go, leave the vacant home. Let us come in. Let our preparation team do some minor updates, maybe some painting. We'll come in and stage the home, and guess what? You're already ensconced in your new location. So we make it as easy as we possibly can. But that's not always the case. I don't want to give the impression that it's only vacant homes. Even homes where you are living,
right.
We'll come in, we'll make some recommendations, maybe move a piece around.
Definitely use your current furniture for sure. It's really just accessorizing, like you were saying.
Absolutely. Move something to the basement, perhaps. The basement's not really being utilized. Well, take some of this excess furniture you have on the first floor, move it to the basement, and let's make that look like livable space. Yeah. And then people will, see that. That's kind of the key, and that visceral feel, if you like. Emotional feel from the buyers. That's what you're looking for. That's the key.
Absolutely. And you touched on that just by recapping with staging. Creating that emotional, the staging, the slide here, creating that emotional response from the buyer. It's critical. Other agents charge for the service. We don't focus on that. We focus more on just what we do. Absolutely. And what we do is provide this overall total service experience to not one size fits all, but really making sure that your home wows people.
Yep, and so staging is included as part of our services to our seller. Be it a full house, no matter how big the house is, or be it a home where sellers are currently living, whichever way, we can work with that.
So how do we go about doing the staging? Might be helpful just to point out a couple things. Whether it's through virtual consultation, where the staging coordinator, whether she talks to the seller over the phone, or through FaceTime to go over room by room what needs to be done. The bottom line is we have someone who's helping to oversee this and to guide you. Basically, more often than not, it's recommendations. Whether or not you choose to do it is your call. We just know what we see works when we go from home to home working with sellers. So, we're focusing on things like depersonalizing the home. That's really important, I actually think. Getting rid of the diplomas, not getting rid of them, putting away your diplomas or family pictures so that people are not distracted when the buyers are not distracted when they're going through your home, but really focusing on the layout and the rooms that you have to offer. Decluttering is key. We all have a lot of stuff in our home. It's really helpful to declutter just so that room size can be more properly presented. But this is all performed by our in-house professional staging team. They make the recommendations, they guide you. We have our own moving truck, as you've already pointed out, that beautiful pretty truck. I love
Right.
that truck. Pretty meaning it's a wow, you know,
Yep.
it stands out. But we have our own moving truck, and we work with our sellers' schedules to make it as least disruptive as possible.
That's the whole key.
You know?
I mean, just as a kind of, it seems like a trivial example, but it's kind of important. We will always try and stage in the morning, if possible. Stage in the morning, especially if it's a home where there are people
Right.
currently living. We'll stage in the morning. We'll photograph in the afternoon. That way it minimizes the amount of disruption on you. The last thing we want is to stage in the morning and say, our photographer will be here in 3 days' time. How am I going to keep the house looking like this for 3 days? So kind of timing those things, back to that relax, we've got this, get those two tasks coordinated. That's why we have stages within our team. We have a marketing team within our team again, so we can coordinate the timing of that, because it makes it so much easier for yourself, as opposed to, I've got to keep this house like this. The kids are going to be home from school pretty soon, and I don't know how I'm going to keep it this tidy, even for 24 hours, let alone for 2-3 days. So that's kind of the key.
And it works well. There's a lot of good communications back and forth with the sellers
Yep.
and with the staging coordinator.
How about some pictures? It's always good. This is always fun.
Okay, you can help me with this one too.
Right, this was a home, and actually it was a home over $2 million, so it's an expensive home, and that's important in a minute when you see. This room, I don't really know what it is. What do I use it for? I'm not really sure. Well, actually it's a dining room. And that's that kind of power of, not really, it's suggesting, but it's more than suggesting. This room would be great as a dining room. And then maybe there's a choice. Maybe there's 2 rooms that could be.
Right.
But the idea here is to kind of, all of that, I don't know what to use this room for. Okay, it's a dining room, straight away. I mean, it turns out after this one, it didn't sell before. It was on the market for a couple of hundred days. And what I said about price, the longer you're on the market, down comes the price. Lo and behold, we did this work, put the staging in there, and guess what? It sold for over asking at over $2 million. We didn't just stage this room; we staged a lot more than this.
And
room
at the
as well.
time, and we know our luxury market in Lexington, because we're talking about Lexington for a moment, that $2 million price point up has grown, but this was years ago.
Yep.
And there was no guarantee they'd get well over asking.
That's
and
true.
They did.
Absolutely,
So I think
and
it
they
really,
did. Yeah. Here's another one. It's a beautiful room.
How do you set it up, though? I think
There you
that's
go.
always,
That's the key,
that's
right?
tricky.
How do I use that room? How do I use that space? I don't know what I'd use this space for, and we kind of answered that question with this one. I always like this one.
Yeah.
So what is this room? I asked the team the other day, what do you think this room is? And I got about 4 different answers. Reality is, it's actually a dining room. The layout of this house was a little bit confusing, funky, unique, whichever word you want to use, and we really needed to help the buyers understand how to use that space. Now, they may not use it this way, but at least we told them, this room would be really great as a dining room and so on, and did for other rooms as well. Just kind of getting that, I don't know what I'll use this room for. Will my bed fit there? This was kind of a great example.
It was a great example.
Yeah, this one is. I have no idea what to use it for. One of the teams said they put the shoes on the rack there. So no, actually, it's a dining room.
Well, it could be a first floor bedroom then.
Could be, yeah, absolutely.
And we see that
could
as a viable option these days.
Yep. But how do you do is to kind of telegraph how it could be used, and that's key. Again, another beautiful room. Guess what? Now it looks really.
Well, it really shows how spacious it is. You know, when you see this big size furniture that fit in that room. I remember
That's true.
that room.
Yeah,
It was
I mean
really
it's
nice.
interesting. A vacant room looks quite small.
I know.
A cluttered room, a room that's full, like we all live in, of course, no surprise, looks small too. So it's a balance between how much furniture you put in the room and to make it look as big as you can. Because you say this is large furniture, it says this is a large room, and that's the kind of key. So it's funny. Vacant room looks small. Cluttered room looks small, and they're kind of trickier, and that's the whole trick of staging, and that's what what stagers bring to our staging team brings to the table here, is kind of putting the right amount of furniture in there. You might remember this room. This was the pink room from way back when. I think we have a shot of the kind of before, after, and so on. But look at it now.
That worked out really well.
Yeah,
as an
it did very much so. You can just see.
Teenage room, an au pair room.
Yeah. just looks all right. This is it's a perfect bedroom, that one.
Shows that we also staged new construction homes.
Yep.
Even more important sometimes, because new construction, it can really feel like, what do you do with the space?
Yep.
This was a great example.
Yeah, and putting the right kind of furniture in the room as well.
What style?
Yeah, what style works? What style works for the way this house was built?
Right.
It was built with a specific style in mind, and it's a case of putting. The trick here is to put the right furniture in there that kind of meets or matches the style of the actual building itself.
Staging is also wonderful because it hides certain foibles. We had a house, it may have been this one, that perhaps the backyard wasn't as large as someone may have liked for a high price point. I'm being tactful here. Beautiful house, but staging it, you really focused on the use of the house itself.
Use of the space inside, right?
So
absolutely,
that was important to point out.
This was actually the blue house. If that's what they call it, the blue house. It was the blue house. Yeah. This was the staging. Pretty impressive. We thought. But what do you use that space for? That's a huge.
This is the staging when someone else brought it.
Yes, not for us. This is us. Here's us. That's us.
Much better.
Right, much better. Now it's a huge room, but it just you can see the difference. We don't really need to. As I say, it's sold for competing offers, and that was key.
I think a good take-home message for sellers is to know you have a choice. There is an option. You don't have to feel that because you don't have furniture or you don't have the means to stage, or that you can make do with other things. And I think this is just a reminder that you do have an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you pick one, pick the right one. Stage your home and paint it properly and declutter and do the things that we're here to guide.
And you'll be pleasantly surprised how much activity there is at the home, and therefore how much it will sell for, almost inevitably.
And it feels good when your home gets offers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It really does.
We're so happy for our sellers.
Absolutely.
We really are so excited for them.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just to speak to that for a second, when the sellers, in hindsight, sellers who don't necessarily do the right things, unfortunately, when the home doesn't sell right away, you know what happens. What goes through the buyer's mind next time? What's wrong with the house?
What's wrong with it?
What's wrong?
What's wrong
with
the house?
And there's typically nothing wrong with the house. It just hasn't been handled or presented properly. So. All right, you take this one, because I know this is a tricky one. This is an interesting one.
So there's 3 rooms here. Maybe I'll kind of point out the 3 spaces. Maybe not 3 rooms, but 3 spaces. So let me do this. There is that space there. There is this space here, and then there's this space. So there are 3 distinct spaces there. And what are they? So it turns out the front space is the living room. The middle space is the dining room, and then there's this 3rd space, the closest room to where we are now. A little confusing how we might use that space. So let's stage it. So living room was staged as a living room. The dining room clearly has a dining room table. It says on the dining room table. But now we've got this 3rd room. What do I use it for? Trick here, of course, is how am I the end user, the buyer, going to use this space? So what we did is we staged it as a pre or post dinner drinks room, right? So that's what we staged it as. And you really, maybe the buyers will never use it as that, but guess what? It says this is what you could use this space for. And that's key. And that's the key with this one. So, back to the photo on the left there, I don't understand quite how to use this space, buyer's agent. What's the story, Marcus? How do I use this space? Now all those questions disappear. They walk in. Oh yeah, it's the living room. Oh yeah, beautiful big dining room.
And they don't even focus on it. They continue through the house. And
they just carry on. They're kind of getting their overall feel of the home, as opposed to, I'm in this room, I don't know what to do with it. They're not getting the flow of the house. They're not getting that visceral feel, if you like.
And, recognize that sellers who have lived in their home for a long time, and oftentimes they've done their own renovations, and those renovations worked for them. But when you take a split level or a cape that has been updated, while it worked for the sellers, the new buyers coming along may not know how to recognize and use that space. So the staging really, I think, helps that in that regard as well. We've had some listings recently where I think it really paid off.
Yep, absolutely. It really does. So staging is hugely important. That's for sure. It really is hugely important. So number 4 is around marketing. So you've done the preparation. You've understood the market, number 1. Okay, I buy that. Yes, I need to create a move-in ready product. Great. Now let's do the preparation. Then let's do the staging. So now we've created that product. Now we need to get it out in front of the maximum number of buyers, and that's key. You don't want to keep it a secret. You don't want it to be just within our company. You want to get this house that you spent all of this effort getting it ready for the market, exposed to as many people as you possibly can. Because ultimately, the more people that look at the house, the more likely and fall in love with it, the more likely you are to get offers, and the more offers you get, the more money, the higher the sale price will be, which is really what it's all about. So it really is about exposure, exposure, exposure. No surprise. That's been used in marketing for a long time. It really is key that you get that house in front of the largest number of buyers you possibly can, just because you spend all of that effort getting it ready for the market. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you, right?
Why
When
wouldn't
you do all
you,
the
right?
work, yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that? And that's really the key. And so, there's a little bit of a feeling right now we need to, sell it in-house and all of this. Absolutely the wrong approach. The right approach here is to do that work and get it in front of the maximum number of buyers. Digital media really is key to selling in this market. I mean, I mentioned before the way buyers are now thinking about that buying process. They look at everything online. Once they've made that decision, in some cases they've made the buying decision. They've certainly made the decision whether they're going to go see the home. They've done it all based on what's out there, the video, the 3D tour, all of that kind of digital media is what they're looking at to make that decision. Yes, they ring up their buyer's agent. I need to see this home. This could be the home for me. That's key, because what we're finding is that there's a direct correlation between how many people are viewing, how many views of that digital media and private showings. You get 40 plus views of the 3D tour, for example, in the first 2 days. You're probably going to get 20 plus private showings. And I'll show you how we get this information in a moment. But really, there's a direct correlation between how many people view it and how many people make a private showing. And no surprise, the more people that make private showings, the more likely they are to write an offer. Yep. And so the real key here is, if you can get that 20 plus private showings of your home, that's going to give you 2 plus offers. If you can get 40, 50 private showings, guess what? In many cases, that will bring 5 or 6 offers in. And the more offers you get, no surprise here, the more offers, people sense, there's competition. Any worries I had about the home disappear quickly because everybody else wants it. And that just pushes the price up. And that's ultimately what you want as a seller. You've spent, the time and effort getting the home ready. We've staged it, we've marketing it, and then the key thing is we get lots of people to view it, and come the day when we review offers, lots of offers, right? And there's nothing, right, just as you said, Rachel, there's nothing like that feeling when, how many offers did I get? 13 offers. Wow, that's a big, and that's really the key. That's really the key.
That's the goal.
Yep, absolutely.
For the seller. Yeah.
For the seller, absolutely. For the buyers, they want to have one offer, by the way, just so you know. But we don't. From this perspective, it's about the sellers. That's the key. So we track all of what everything I talk about here, correlation to digital media, private showings, and so on. We track all of that because we want to know exactly, and we want you to know what's happening with the home while it's on the market. And so we developed this dashboard that gives you information about what's happening when, in, for example, the pre-listing phase. When are we staging? When is the preparation going to be finished? When can you expect to see the brochures so that you can review them? All of those dates come in. And then when it's on the market, we want you to be able to see real time how many people are viewing the 3D tour and the video and the floor plan and so on. So you get a sense of, this is, we've done our job correctly here. You know what's going to happen in the market. And that's key. So we want you to have the maximum amount of information so you can see what's happening. That's kind of key for us.
Right.
A lot of components to marketing, photography, video, 3D tour, and so on. There's a lot going on. Let me give you some examples of some of those key pieces that need to be in that marketing package, and then I'll talk a little bit about how you get it in front of the maximum number of people. Photograph sell, professional photography sells, and it really doesn't matter if in this case it's a somewhat contemporary home and then clearly a much older home. Good photography matters. It really does matter. This is some.
Did you say it again? Because we know the joke is, unfortunately, there's a lot of mediocrity out there.
There is, absolutely. That's true.
Because it's hurting the seller.
Let me give you some examples of that mediocrity. These are our photographs. So this is our photographs. And before I show you the bad ones, This is the first thing that people see. Whatever platform they're on, it doesn't matter. Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, whatever platform they're looking at, maybe they've been sent this listing by an agent. The first thing they see is the photographs, almost inevitably. And this will make or break a listing. Let me give you a couple of examples. Here's an interesting one. Again, this is not our photographs, but this is the same room. This is the same kitchen. If you look at the left-hand side, it's even been staged. There's a few extra things on the wall than on the right-hand side, but just think of, you're looking at that photograph and you're thinking, well, it's quite a small kitchen actually, isn't it? Yeah, it's also not straight, by the way, but that's another story. But it's quite a small kitchen. Now look at the professional photograph, if you will. Now it's a really big kitchen. Now I'm really interested in this house. I really want to go do a private showing of it. Right. And guess what? The more people who think that, no surprise, the more likely you are to get private showings and therefore offers and therefore a higher sale price. So it really does. There is that direct correlation between the quality of the marketing and the number of offers you get and therefore the price you get at the end of the day. Here's an example. Left-hand side is another agent. Ours is actually on the right. That's a kitchen photograph. If you look at the one on the left, which isn't our photograph, it's actually out of focus. It's blurry, which I don't really understand why you can't actually take a photograph that isn't blurry, but it's blurry. Look at the microwave there. It's really blurry. It doesn't make any sense. Here's another example. Again, think about the staging here as well. It's a small kitchen, right? It is what it is. It is a small kitchen, but they've made no attempt to make that space look inviting. The stove is pushed there. The walls have not been painted. They've made no attempt to make that inviting space, and then they've kind of capped that off with some poor quality photograph on top of it. So no surprise, you're just not going to get top dollar for that home. No preparation at all. This is the piece I really like about this photograph is the box of tissues on the table there. Really? So there's no preparation at all here. And this is what's going to sell the home. Irrespective of what it looks like today, buyers are going to look at that photograph and again, they're going to go, oh, yeah, that doesn't look very inviting, does it?
Or they're going to dismiss the home.
Dismiss it,
They're just going to dismiss it. And
they're going to go to the next one. There were 3 homes on the market. 2 of them looked really good. Guess what? This was the 3rd one. Almost inevitably. Here's another example again. Blurry photograph. No staging as well. I'm guessing that's probably an informal dining space, but I don't actually know if that's an informal dining space. And then, the last one, which is the most blurred.
These are real photos.
These are real photos.
That you've captured
on MLS. These are real
MLS.
photographs. Yeah, these are real photographs.
Oh my goodness!
It's like, please, come on. And say it really matters. It's the first thing people see. Does it matter? Yeah, we got some offers on the home, but did you get enough offers on the home? Did you get the maximum price for your home? It really does matter. So, photography sales. The next thing people are used to viewing information or getting information from is clearly video. That's key. Video is key. So we do a number of different videos designed for different platforms. Maybe the video we put on social media may be different from the video that is the normal house video. Top 5 reasons you love this home. That works beautifully on social media. That's kind of a catchy on social media. That works really well. And so we create multiple videos of the home, depending on the home, depending on what platform we're looking to put it on. But video is the next key piece of people, allowing them to walk through the home. Because if you lay out the photographs, it does give you a sense of the home. And I'll show you a website in a moment where we kind of bring this together. The photographs do give you a flavor of the home, but the video gives you a much better flavor of the home, I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely.
That's key.
I was just going to comment that I don't know if sellers would even know this, that, do they look at how their home presents when it's brought on MLS? Because as a agent looking at a home for a potential buyer, I'm struck sometimes by the lack of flow that is used when a home is presented on MLS.
Yep,
it doesn't make sense which room, and you really can't figure it out.
Right. Yep. No, you're right.
And not every seller has the opportunity to even have a video made of their home.
Right.
So again, the notion is educating you on what you can expect, what you should have, right, when bringing a home on the market.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn the light on in a minute because it went off.
Oh.
There we go. Didn't even notice. There we go.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay.
So, I've got great photographs, I've got great video. Now they're really the next piece to this really is a 3D tour. And I can show it on this slide, but let me actually show you in action, because here I've got photographs, I've got great description of the home, giving you a flavor of the home. Susan, our listing coordinator, can paint a picture of a home, if you like, with words, which is just amazing. I've got my video, I've got my 3D tour. I really want to package that up in a single place to be able, for buyers to be able to look at it. And we do that through a website. So let me show you what that website looks like. This is a home we sold last year, actually, late last year, turns out to be in Lexington, but give you a sense of what we're looking at with a home. Let me kind of go down. So here's information about the home, basic information, schools and things like that. And here's that description as well as photographs. These, and back to these, inviting. You walk into this home, immediately looks like a light, airy space. I mean, that's absolutely key. And so you want to kind of paint that picture through pictures and through words of what that home looks like. And this is what we do here.
Accurately.
Yes.
Real photos.
Real photos, absolutely. That furniture is really there. But talking about, touching on this notion of virtual staging, it's kind of a bit of a flavor of the month, if you will. First of all, the reason it's done is to save money, the agent money. That's the reason it's done. They don't want to stage because it's cheaper to put virtual furniture in there. But the virtual furniture is, of course, only in the photographs. So when the buyer walks into the home expecting to see, in this case, a living room, if you will, with a sofa and 2 chairs, it's a big empty space. And
it's a letdown.
It's a letdown. And just as we mentioned before, once you've let the buyers down, you're never getting them back. It's really difficult.
They're much more critical. They look at the home with a much more critical eye.
Absolutely. It's just like, you're interviewing somebody. Once you get that bad first impression, very difficult to kind of turn that around. That's key. So we carry on down. Here we go. There's more of the pictures. And then let's get to the 3D tour. As well as that, I'll there's the video of the house as well, by the way. Everything we create is here. But I want to quickly show you a quick tour or a quick look at the 3D tour, just to give you a sense of what it's about. Let me put it in full screen mode, just to give you a sense. There we go. So if you think about today's buyers, especially in a very popular house, they'll get a minimum amount of time in the home. Maybe they'll get a private showing, maybe they'll do 15, perhaps they'll get 30 minutes if they're lucky, but there's a lot of people, stacked up behind them. The open houses, there's other people in the home. And often what we found is that buyers fall in love with the home while they're in there, but then have second thoughts as soon as they leave. Buyer's remorse, before they've even written an offer. So what we want to do now is them to be able to go home, look at the home again, maybe look at it in conjunction with friends or family. Hey, look at the home we saw today. We really like this. Let me show you the home. And actually allowing them to navigate around the home. So instead of those static photographs, which is our way of that we anticipate you will go, we're the director of the video. You're going to go from the foyer into the family room, into the kitchen. Here you can go in whichever direction you want. And so it allows you, for as long as you want, to just look at the home in as much detail as I say, whenever, for however long. And it really is about, yes, I fell in love with the home with the private showing. Now this reinforces it. This is the key. It reinforces their view of the home. What's also nice, and one other reason why staging is important, this tool allows you to see the home with furniture in it, a floor plan, if you will, not like the schematic floor plans you're used to. We have those as well, as it turns out, but this gives you a view of the home with the furniture in it. And if I go up to the bedroom level here, floor 3, I'm guessing, there we go. These are the bedrooms. Now you can begin to see, okay, that's a queen size bed, that's a king size bed. Look at the size of that room. Queen size bed here. These are big bedrooms. you're getting a sense of whether your furniture will fit within that space.
And you're able to look at areas where you may want to open up a wall, or right, you can, or add a bathroom if it lines with a bathroom on another level. So it definitely is a very creative way to help a buyer see a home.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just talking here about this tool. What this lets you do is a view you would never ordinarily get, which is, so let me go back to all the floors. How do all those floors lay on top of each other? So back to, well, could I put a bathroom in here? Well, it turns out there's a bathroom above or below the existing bathroom. So yes, actually you can. And so that's what this tool does. So there's a multitude of different things you can do with this tool. And we think it's hugely powerful. We've been doing it for a long time, actually.
I've seen, the impact too is that we've had buyers win offers on homes where one of the buyers, unfortunately, was in another part of the world and had to look at it at different hours or until they could get into town to see it, let's say, It also wows the buyers. We're talking about what can we do as sellers to help you stand out.
Yep.
And it's a mechanism that not every agent's offering.
Right.
So I think it's just a cool thing.
Back to that, COVID, everything digital, and then I make a private showing. And then guess what? I look at the digital views afterwards. And you can see that when I showed you the dashboard before. You can see lots of showings on the Thursday and Friday. Lots of views of the 3D tour. A little bit less over Saturday and Sunday because they're actually at the home, and then it picks up again on the Monday before we review offers on the Tuesday. So they're looking at it beforehand. They're looking at it to validate the fact that they've fallen in love with this home. Yeah. So that's the kind of the profile that we often see for homes.
People have really responded to this one, to this tool.
Yep.
All the tools, but this is a cool one.
Then back to that video, all of the information on here. Here's the brochure. We do print some brochures. People are becoming more, they prefer what like they do in restaurants where they can view a QR code and view the brochure virtually. We do that too. There's a floor plan, there's a plot plan, and then, the all important, so where is this home in relation to the schools and in relation to public transport? And that's key. So whatever town it's in, we'll put these maps in that give you a sense of, so here's the home, how close is it to the high school in this case, just happens to be the high school, and how does it relate to public transport? So all the information about that home in one place so the buyers can make a decision about whether they want to go see it and all the rest of it. So that's key. So let me go back to our deck here. There's the 3D tour, there's the website. Now, you've created all of this content. You've created great photography, videos, 3D tour, a website, and all the rest of it. Now, let's get it out into the maximum number of people. 2 approaches on this one. So, as well as pushing it on the MLS system and Zillow and Redfin and Trulia and 101 other portals, which all homes that go on the multiple listing service end up on. So that's there as well. We also want to push it out on social media. Key thing with social media is if you've got poor marketing, it's going to fly by and nobody's going to see it. And it's not that necessarily people on social media are going to see the home and fall in love with it, want to buy it, but maybe they know somebody who will. So it doesn't have to be a direct, but it could be an indirect. As well as putting it on the real estate portals, we push it out on social media. And guess what? Every one of these adverts we push out, when people interact with it, they go straight to the website. So you've got to have everything in place. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to put it on social media. They want to be able to click on this and then go straight to the website to get all of the information about the home. That's key. Having done that, now we want to go narrow, if you will. Now we're going to get very focused on buyers that we know, perhaps who've come to open houses, have registered on our website, have interacted with us in any way. We want them to be able to know about this home. So we'll send targeted emails out to prospective buyers a few days before it's coming on the market, before it comes on the market. We'll do a 3 or 4 day coming soon, just to kind of get people's excitement up. Not too long, it's got to be that early part of the week, so it's coming on a Thursday, just to get that little bit of excitement about the home. Oh, I need to make sure I look at this one over the weekend, so that's out there, just listed and so on.
In fact, you can just touch on the fact that every town's different, but in Lexington, for instance, homes typically come on the market on a Thursday, and people are very eager to see what new home's coming on. Mm-hmm. So
we'll do a coming soon on a Monday or Tuesday. We'll start that just to get people's excitement. Wow, okay, maybe I missed out on a home this weekend, and maybe nothing worked for me. Wow, this one looks really exciting. I need to remember Thursday, that's the day. So they're already getting their buyer's agent lined up. You know, this one is coming on the market. We need to make sure we go in and see this. That's the whole trick around coming soon, just to get that little bit of pre-excitement, just so everybody's geared up so the weekend comes. They're the first people to make the appointment. And you actually see this in terms of the appointments. As soon as you put it live in the multiple listing service and it goes out on all the websites, the appointments come in thick and fast. And that's that kind of, oh, I already knew this was coming on the market,
right.
Therefore I'm making an appointment to see it. So marketing is hugely important in that kind of broad sense as well as very targeted. So and that's what's get people through the door. That's what guess what? That means the more offers, and the more offers you get, the higher the price you go. That's kind of key. Last piece is really around teamwork. I mean, that's key. We've talked a lot about the different aspects of it, you know, staging and preparation and so on and so forth. And it's really important that, you know, clearly the client's at the center of our world, the buyer and or the seller, you know, both, depending on which, here we're talking about sellers. I mean, it's really about the seller being at the center of our world. The agent is hugely important. Really kind of looking at, having kind of big picture view, if you like. But it's important to have experts, preparation, as I say, Susan, project management, looking at, you know, what does it take to get it done, and organizing that so you, the seller, don't have to do it. That's key. That's what Susan does on a day-to-day basis. Lisa and her team do the staging. Glenn, Deanna look after marketing. So we've got specialists in all this, and then the last piece, when you get that accepted offer, which you inevitably will, Sherry then manages much of that closing activity that has to happen afterwards. And so that team-based approach is what gives us the ability to kind of say, relax, we've got this, because we have. We own all aspects of this, and that's key. That for us is the key.
It's a relationship.
Right.
Yeah, it's really
Absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, our goal is to sell your house for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with zero hassle or stress. Now, there's going to be some. They're almost inevitably. But, you know, as the minimum we possibly can. Because, you know, that's what creates experiences that the buyers and sellers talk about. And that's key. And you mentioned it before, Rachel, and it's all about relationships. That's the key. This is not a transaction. Clearly it is. But it's not about the transaction. It's about that relationship. That's key. And that's what that team-based approach kind of brings, is that you have a strong working relationship with us. A friend, in many cases, many of our buyers and sellers, if they move out of state, maybe not so, but certainly buyers become friends.
I would say absolutely become our friends.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They've enjoyed the experience. They maybe haven't enjoyed how much money they had to spend, but they've realized that in order to buy in this market, they have to spend X. So there's not this, oh, you made me sell too much. You've got this close working relationship. So they understand exactly why they've spent as much as they have, and they're okay with it. Let me put it that way. Maybe not wonderful about it, but they're okay with it. So that's kind of the key. That really is our goal.
And we you know, we help as a seller. If you're selling your home and you have the satisfaction that it's gone, you know, it happens, and then getting you to your next destination, we go to other towns. You know, we're not
absolutely.
We really recognize that there's so many other towns that offer wonderful attributes as well. It just depends where you're at.
Absolutely. You know, think about those downsizers. Yeah. You know, I'm moving out of Belmont, Winchester, and I want to go to a more affordable town. It's not cheap. No towns in this part of Boston are, of course, but a more affordable town, a smaller home. You know, should I go into Arlington, let's say, or should I go out to Acton or Westford? You know, which way should I go? And that's where that close working relationship
pays off.
Right. Right, and the ability to give you that information back to the smart decisions right at the beginning. Lots of information about all of those towns. Which one makes more sense to us? Which, you know, fits our bill in terms of price distribution, and so on. All of that information is available, and that's why that relationship works.
Look at how many of our clients recently have been situations like that, where we've helped them come into Lexington, then in turn help them sell their home, which is in another town. Yep. So we're paying it forward in that way, right? Or we've helped someone downsize or upsize to another house in the same town. I mean,
Yep.
It's really,
Yep.
it works out
That's
really
key.
well.
That's key.
Communications.
Yep.
Good communications.
We kind of drive our world by 3 core values. It's really important to us. Integrity and ethical behavior. There are horror stories, I will not go into them, but really it's core to what we do. Back to that relationship to life, relationship for life. Really having a strong sense of integrity and ethical behavior in everything we do. We talked before about the teardown market. Let's give you the information you need to be able to make a value judgment. That's key. That comes into the second, which is really about education, not sales. Why are we doing this? Why are we live streaming this evening? It's really about, here's all the information. Now, this is what we feel is the right way to do this. It's about educating buyers and sellers. We do buyers masterclasses too, of course. Really to educate you about the right way to do it based on what our experience in terms of doing that. And then that kind of customer service, that teamwork is really about exceptional customer service. It really is key, and we feel that our model of owning all of those people of that diagram I just showed you is absolutely key. Right? We own all of that. Just that simple example of stage in the morning, photograph in the afternoon.
Right.
Relax. Don't worry about the fact that the children are going to come home and they're going to mess up the staging. That's okay. We've already taken the photographs. We'll tidy it up before we come on the market. But right now, you can just rest assured it's just going to happen on Wednesday. Once Wednesday's out of the way, you don't have to worry until we come on the market a week or so later. So that just a simple example of why that kind of owning that whole process and that exceptional customer service comes in. That's kind of key. There are stories. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but there are agents that are not doing this. You saw some of the photographs I showed before. Our industry does not have a great reputation. That's fair to say, and we're looking to buck that trend. The one study that was conducted a long time ago, now about 3 years, well, a long time, about 3 years ago, said, the real estate industry is saddled with a large number of part-time, untrained, unethical agents. And that's not us. Everybody in our team is full-time. It's what we do for a living. And it's really about maximizing that sale price through everything we've talked about and that ethical behavior that kind of runs through everything that we do. That the client, buyer client or seller client, because you could be both, let's face it, you're selling your existing home and buying a new one, here or in another state. We want to make sure that you understand that you are the center of our world. Just today, you were telling me the story of a friend who moved down to Maryland. We helped them find an agent that we knew, we'd worked with before, knew they were going to get great service, and it worked out really well. And that's key. Wherever you're moving, don't feel like you're on your own when you're how do I find an agent, in this case in Maryland? Relax, we've got this, we can help you, we have people. Yeah. That's key. That's absolutely key.
Brings us no greater pleasure, I think, to see how to help other people be successful.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Here's the agents on the team. Danny, myself, Rachel, here this evening, Corinne, Andrew, Kelly. Feel free to reach out to anybody on the team. We can really help you with whatever it is that you're looking for. Whatever questions you have. I don't understand buying and selling. I'm looking to buy in wherever, Maryland, but I need to sell my home first. Do I need to do that? All of the agents will be more than willing to help you through that whole process. Because we've probably seen the situation before. If we haven't, one of the other agents has, and we probably talked about it, one of our team meetings, which we hold, twice a week, as it turns out. It's a very collaborative environment within our organization, and that's absolutely key. Sharing experiences so that we have the maximum amount of knowledge in all of the people in our organization.
Well said.
So, what do you do next? Steps to success. The first thing, get us in to advise even 5 years in advance. That's key. We've talked about, don't put a new kitchen in to sell. Put a new kitchen in 5 years in advance and enjoy it. Yeah. So you can sell it, right? And that's key. So get us in to do that. I'm thinking of painting my house. I don't know what colors. Get us in to help. And many, many years in advance. Plan that move. We talked a lot about, timing a buy and a sell. And really, it's key. Where am I going to move? When am I going to move? How am I going to do it? Do I need to sell first? Lots of different questions. It's really about planning that move, because the more planning you do up front, the easier it becomes.
And don't let the lack of knowing where you're going deter you from getting your home on the market at a time that's going to get you the best price.
That's true.
Because we can help.
Just like the example you gave, asking for that long closing. Yep. Maybe, I need the extra money to buy a home. Ask for a closing that ends at the end of the school year. Right? Perfect example, right? And start preparing your home. Even if you're thinking of moving next year, start preparing it. That's kind of key. Think about, all this furniture I'm not going to need in my new home. Think about that now, not 3 weeks before you want to come on the market. We've seen that, unfortunately, and it's tough because you have to do an awful lot really quickly. And so the sooner you do this, the easier this process becomes. That's absolutely key. Absolutely key. Lots of information on our website. There's hundreds of seller essential videos organized, by whatever phase you're in. Lots of information there. Feel free to kind of sit back with a glass of wine and watch the videos. They're quite small, 3-4 minutes on specific topics. There's a lot there. And really the last one, and this is the piece that most people, how much is my home worth? We've been doing a lot of work around Zillow and Redfin and Realtors, estimates, whatever they call it nowadays. Some interesting information. I'm going to write it up in a blog post. I'm going to do a video on it too. The key is to get us in to tell you what your home is worth. Even if it's, even if you're not moving out in 2-3 years, don't rely on those numbers. They are way off. They are absolutely way off. In many cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars off in many cases. They're just not able to keep up with the market. The way they do it is automated.
It's a hook to get you in.
It just doesn't work. Whatever they say. So it's key to do that. And really, the last thing to this really is that we partner with you. That's really what works. Reach out to anybody on the team. We are more than willing to help. Whatever questions you have, just reach out. We're here. Right? It's what we do. We like doing it. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. And as you can see, we can talk about it quite a lot anyway. And our aim is to provide that exceptional customer service, even if it's years. I'm not thinking of doing this for 2 years. I don't want to bother you, but reach out. Absolutely. Relax. We've got this. We have all of this kind of, covered. So we've done this so many times with so many clients that really we can help you, whatever your questions are. I think it's fair to say. Yeah. And so, that kind of wraps it up. And there's a couple of little, snippets to kind of finish up with here. We think our client deserves to be the smartest person at the closing table. And we say that because everybody benefits, buyers and sellers for that matter, about being smarter about home buying and selling. That's kind of key. And that's why we do these masterclasses. Lots of information. Feel free to look at this. We'll put it on YouTube with all the timings so that I'm interested in preparation, not this. It's all going to be out there. So all there. There you go. How was that?
Thank you very much for joining us. And as Marcus said, don't hesitate to reach out for a quick chat or for any questions that you may have.
Absolutely. We're always here. We like talking about this stuff. So please reach out. So with that,
have a good night and stay positive.
That's right.
The spring is coming. The nice weather is right around the corner.
Sure.
And things are really active in Lexington.
Yep, very much so. Very much so. And in all markets for that matter. So with that, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.